Good morning, Alyssa. Good to see you.
Good morning.
And
Great to see you too.
okay. Hi there, also Joelle. And I think we have Chris Bozio here and some good old lovely Michigan companies. We're delighted. Thank you all for joining us today. We want to talk about AI tools. This is a sort of small dedicated group Michigan exporters here. We haven't opened this up to anyone outside Michigan. So please, feel free to put in your questions, your comments, anything that you'd like to add and that you would like to have explained. We know you're busy. We know you've taken an hour out of busy days. So we're grateful for that, but we also hope that you take full advantage of it and spend some time really listening and learning about what we can give you and what we can bring you about AI tools that we've been working on for the last few years for exporters. Uh, um, I'm delighted to be joined by Joelle. Joelle Lazzarato is our marketing director. She heads up the whole team, growing team of our marketeers, based wherever they are based, and doing all the magic fairy dust that they bring to digital marketing from SEO and AISO and all those other acronyms that marketeers love. Myself, Susanna Hardy, I'm Chief Content Officer at IBT Online. I want to give a big shout out, as always, to the fantastic Alyssa Tracy of the MEDC. And maybe just before we really dive in, Alyssa, maybe you could just say hi to some of your exporters here.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. We have been longtime partners with IBT Online, and as we ourselves are trying to learn about the crossroads of AI and export development, we're delighted to have you here today to come and learn alongside us with IBT Online to see how we can utilize specific AI tools to better access, enter, and sell into various export markets. So I'm delighted that you're all interested in this subject and happy to have you here and looking forward to working with you after this this webinar, this masterclass. So please feel free to get in touch with me. My email is right on the screen right there, tracya@michigan.org. Or you can go to our website, michiganbusiness.org/export. And if you haven't worked with us before, we've got an easy online intake form, but it's always better connecting with the human first. So you're more than welcome to email me and get started if you haven't worked with our team and want to see what else we can do together to keep your company moving forward in the export development space.
I can just second that. Get a hold of Calissa. She will solve the problem and put you in touch with the right people who can help you solve the other problems for your exporting and for your international markets. Tremendous team that really bats the right way for Michigan companies. Right. Joelle and I have managed to hack an enormous amount into this slide deck. So we're going to just get started. I can see there's a couple more people joining in the room, but they're there. You will all get a recording of this. If you want the slide deck, let us know. We can send you the slide deck. And if you have questions afterwards, shoot us an email, or call us or whatever. We're always happy to drop in over a cup of coffee and talk about AI. We're a little bit submerged in it in the last few years, as anybody in digital marketing knows. So I've introduced ourselves, Susanna Hardy, Chief Content Officer, and Joelle, who heads up our wonderful team. Just very quickly, also as a company, who are we? IBT Online is what's called a full stack digital marketing agency, which means we cover the full range of digital online tools available. And these days, that doesn't just mean, building websites and e-commerce and traditional digital marketing. It also means things like avatars and AI videos and all these kind of things like that. But lots of fun. So we can talk about that if you like. It's a little bit scary, but it's still okay. What we thought we'd talk about today is hold on. This one? Oh, no, this one. There we go. Sorry about that. We're going to talk about today. We're going to sort of split up into sort of four big parts. The core is obviously part number two, which is the biggest part, and we'll be talking about sort of what AI means in terms of your online presence, how companies are getting found today, what it means for your websites, for your digital presence, not just your website, but your entire digital omnisphere and synthesis of your digital presence. We've tried to make this as practical as possible. We've therefore put out 6 applications which are particularly useful for exporters and particularly sort of helpful, we hope, for your productivity and reach in international markets. And then we wanted to give you specifically a shout out for something called Claude for Small Business, which we think is worth highlighting. It's a bit of an action plan at the end and some resources. And as I said, please, stop in for some questions if you have. So let's now talk very quickly about sort of, what this shift means and what this is all about. So there's 2 points about this. The first is this coming together of all these trends, and whether the trends are about personalization or e-commerce, these are all trends that have come together at the same time and are driving things forward. And AI is being leveraged in each one of these trends and expands these trends also immediately. So there's a lot of sort of confluence going on here, and it's no AI is very much a natural progression of the internet and how the internet is formed. You think about that sort of thing, but I think and we've all seen these numbers before about how fast this uptake has been, especially since the launch of ChatGPT. So that was that did in days what other companies and other apps have been done in years. There's a couple of things that I wanted to really emphasize on this, and I think the most important for an exporter is that 75%, roughly 3/4 of ChatGPT users are outside the USA. So if you think that your business, your prospective clients, your distributors, your company is starting to look at AI, just realize that your prospective clients in India, Japan, Germany are on it already and have already made those transitions, are in the same position as you are. So worth having that in mind, especially as an exporter. And clearly, I mean, you've all been to your analytics and looked at your analytics, and you start to see the LLMs cropping up in the analytics. When you go to sort of the sources of it, you start to see Perplexity and Chat, Gemini, Claude, and so on popping up. And what's interesting is, I mean, these are real screenshots from clients of ours. 3 years ago, that third row there, that third row about ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, that didn't even exist. So this is a whole new funnel that's coming in, and it's coming very fast, and it's very, very real. So and this is something we'll repeat a few times. AI. When they come to when someone finds you via AI, the buyer's journey is significantly different. And you can tell that by the fact that the conversion rates are 2 to 3 times faster than organic. So if someone finds you in the traditional way of organic search with keywords and so on, they would convert at a certain pace. Someone coming in via an LLM will convert at 2 to 3 times that speed. They've already shortened the buyer's journey. They have gone from, I have a problem, I must figure it out. How do I find the right supplier for this? To your website source in a very short time. And it's been legitimized through the AI. We'll figure that out. We'll talk that through. But first, let's have a couple of questions. Your Monday morning meeting. You always wonder what to talk about. Well, here's some questions you can ask your Monday morning meeting people. So what do I do what do I do with this AI? And in particularly for marketing, how do I integrate AI into my marketing and sales process? That's marketing, by the way. Aligning my digital presence, my website, my LinkedIn, my YouTube videos, my Reddit, all of my digital presence. How do I get that aligned with AI and stuff? And I think enough for me, Joelle. What about those good old days?
Absolutely. I just wanted to again set the scene and really answer some of the questions that we get asked quite a lot now when we talk to exporters. Like, if we think back, I want to say 5 years ago, but even less than that, 2 years ago, we all were looking at, SEO, search engine optimization, domestically, internationally. We had the right keywords. We wanted to make sure that we had the best meta description. We very much spent time on our website, making sure that we had the right href lang tag. So if you had more than one website, that you had localized content on your website, it was visible for the right markets. And it was kind of easy to then look at your return on investment. We'd look at the analytics, like Susanna, you shared earlier with us. We'd see a rise in organic traffic, a rise in traffic. People were spending time on our website, and that, was a very good indication we were doing a good job. That world isn't quite gone, and a lot of the question we get asked is, well, was that all for nothing? The answer is absolutely not. Those are the fundamentals, and they still matter. However, that's no longer enough, is no longer the full, the whole game, the full spectrum of what you need to pay attention to. We've seen this described as a paradigm shift, these AI infused, very much human led, I want to say, but still AI infused. Here I just wanted to share some stats that I'm sure we can all relate to. And it's like 121 emails per person per day. We all have that feeling when you open your inbox on a Monday morning, or like try to clear it by the end of your day. Open rates are declining. Those marketing emails don't reach the same way they did 2-3 years ago. We're just inundated. And it's not just email. We get inundated with text. You get inundated across social media. Content fatigue is a thing. You're now skimming through your social media. You're skimming even through a website or like a newsletter you use to really concentrate. We have so much information thrown at us every day as consumers, as buyers. So if you think about that from your customer's perspective, we are saturated, and organic search is declining as buyers are now shifting to those AI engines, social search. But even there, I think there are so many platforms that your marketing really has to work harder, but also work smarter and work in a more personalized way. So we'll go into that in a lot more detail. But before we do, I just wanted to share with you a stat that I came across whilst working with Susanna on today's presentation, which I think is staggering. So in 2011, there were about 150 marketing technology tools. Today, we're over 14,000 and growing, 14,000. So, this is an incredible number. And the first question comes to mind is, how do I keep up with all of it? Do I need to use them all? Please don't try. It's borderline impossible, and it's probably going to take a sort of lifetime. The real skill here is learning how to choose. And again, I'm not going to say the one or two. It's probably 8, 10, 12 that you really need as a business to succeed. But the important thing is choosing the one that's most relevant to you, your business, your buyers, but also making sure that they talk to each other. So I did a little bit of an exercise and I broke them down, if this is helpful, and hopefully this will then stick with you as we go through the rest of the presentation. But I tried to divide them into 7 key categories for digital marketing. So you have your SEO, your content, where you have platforms like SEMrush, Ahrefs. There are so many other more. You don't need all of them. You need to choose the one that integrates the best in your tech stack. And likewise for your email marketing, your social media, your paid ads. Analytics is where perhaps you might want to have a couple of options because they all look at different things. But again, CRM, you should really choose one that works best with your tech stack, that you're comfortable with, that your sales team is likely to use, and stick with it and make sure that it connects with the rest of your ecosystem. And then we have the AI and the LLMs. You have ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Copilot, Perplexity, Jasper, so many out there. And again, my recommendation here is choose the one that works for you and really master it. They're all really powerful platforms and they work in different ways. They have advantages and disadvantages. So I think it's worth taking a little bit of time understanding what's good for you, and then really taking the time to learn how to use all of these platforms. But we'll have a little bit more about some of these later on. But perhaps before we dive into the core of the agenda, Susanna, shall we look at some guardrails, just some top level indications on that?
I just wanted to put this slide in before we dive into those practical AI marketing applications for exporters. We talked about 6 of them. It is important right in the beginning to have some guardrails set up for your company. This comes at the board level, at the CEO level, executive C-suite level, where you're looking and saying, this is our policy. This is it. And it is worth defining before you start this journey. It's very important that you do that and move on with it. AI in marketing is not sort of a plug and play. It's not a press and walk away thing. It is a heavy responsibility and should be set out clearly for legal reasons, if nothing else. That reflects your ethics, your transparency with customers, human oversight, monitoring, etc. There's the quote that we've left there is from the Marketing AI Institute. We're big fans. We've all taken diplomas on that one. It's a lack also of learning and training. That's the biggest stumbling block that we're seeing today with AI. So now let's dive into sort of the more the meat of it. As I said, there's sort of practical AI marketing applications for exporters, and we thought we'd sort of list these 6. So the AI we're finding for our clients helps us with these 6 aspects of digital marketing: market intelligence, AI search engine or search optimization, localization, generative content creation and scalable content creation, hyper personalization and targeting, which is increasingly the absolute must-have, and analytics. Without the data, you can't make the right decisions. So just going through some of them. Let's look at all 6, starting really with the market intelligence one. What we're finding is that AI is a good tool to use for predictive analytics. And that's something that marketeers, it's like the sort of the gold dust that we've all been searching for. Predictive analytics is incredibly important. It means you have a lot of data that you put in and to have new market discovery via predictive analytics. It also allows you very granular tracking of competitors and benchmarking. And we have some examples from Michigan companies a little bit later on for this in this. And then also using trade data and integrating that into AI sort of thing. So that could be a useful thing. So what would that look like? What would that look like for a Michigan exporter? And I've chosen some of the sectors, the sectors that Michigan is really a proud leader in. Automotive, obviously, life sciences, med tech, food processing, and so on. So what would that look like, in predictive analytics and competitor tracking and flagging? Well, these are some of the things that you would look at to get on a regular, easy, in your email box, or every day or more if you wanted it, but certainly, and integrate into your decision making. So that's I think the one. Maybe Joelle, you could have a look now at the next one, AI search optimization. Number 2 out of 6.
Absolutely. Number 2, one of my favorite topics. We've done a lot of work on this, and why we've done a lot of work on this is because, being found on the web is no longer linear. We've seen that the buyer's journey's changed, the search habits have changed. Pretty sure a lot of us in the virtual room here today go to Google for a specific question, but then when you have a problem, you're looking for a solution, you want to source information, we're very likely more often than not go into a large language model, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, whichever is your preferred one. And that's really important because that's how everyone, including your prospects and your customers, your partners, your distributors, everyone is now engaging. But also the buyer's research, how we compare, how we engage, how we gather information goes from a website to social media, to Reddit, to a blog. There are so many information out there. And when a few of the stats that I just wanted, I wanted to bring some numbers here to say that 60% of Google searches this day end without a click. So even if you go to Google, AI mode pops up, there is so much information that this search engines are giving us without us needing to leave the engine, that before someone makes it to a website, we've already gathered a lot of that information. So our buyers are a lot more informed by the time they get to your website. So to Susanna, you were mentioning earlier conversion rates and traffic. There are different ways that we can monitor, the success of our website, of our web presence. And I mentioned, the behavior change. So we've now seen that AI is now the second most influential shopping source. We tend to trust AI or an LLM maybe more than we trusted our friends and family asking for recommendation. We now go and ask ChatGPT what I should buy and why. And that's unfortunately the way that, we need to make sure that we show up. If we're not there, then unfortunately, we're not being recommended. So AI is surpassing the retailer website in terms of reviews and how people find their information. So AI really is embedded in our words, whatever, AI is a huge word, but the implications really here that being on the first page of Google, having a really strong website that ranks really well is no longer enough. You need to be in the same answers that the AI gives. What does it mean and how do we do that? I look at this as, you need to be everywhere and all at once, easy. Just got to be everywhere. There are some kind of strategic and set ways that we can make sure that we move towards that we future-proof our brand and our website and our content. So that's developing that narrative omnipresence. And I've broke this down into 4 main pillars for us here. So topical authority, ICP alignment, third-party validation, clear positioning. Simply, it's nothing simple here, but is really can be broken down by make sure that you have the best content in your niche, whether you are very targeted, whether you had your product does something very specific, make sure that you have the best answer. If you're not creating that content, someone else will shape the narrative for you. So make sure that your content, you answer every core question and you are the leader from a content perspective. But also understand what your customers are asking. Those Monday morning questions could very much be go to your sales team and ask, inquire about what questions is your team being asked, because if you answer the exact same question your buyer is out there asking, you've got much bigger chances to be found in the same way and with the relevant information. And that just doesn't go only on your website. Make sure that you look at what other trusted sources, for example, LinkedIn is a great source, something like Reddit, Quora, third parties, but also news outlets, PR outlets, or anything that is, for example, like your Thomasnet or directories, is not just where you rank with your website, but it's also where else your brand is mentioned and who else is talking about you. So that's very important for these LLMs. And then this is a clarity. If you're vague, if your content is not always the same across all of these platforms, it sounds a little bit harsh, but might as well be invisible. Clarity is key. If you're clear, then you'll get chosen. If your website is structured in a very clear, think bullet points, things FAQ, think schemas, all of that is really important to make sure that you're seen by these AI and LLM crawlers. And this really has brought a change in the way that we look at SEO, the way that we look at these strategies. So as we say, generative search, what does this mean in plain English? we've got to look at long tail keywords. We've got to look at prompts. Think about asking a very long question, kind of like is now the way to think about this. Think about quality over quantity. Rather than publishing, maybe 3 blogs a week, focus on what content would really answer this question from your customers, and focus on that quality and consistency of your keyword. Problem solving, thought leadership, imagery and video are now being indexed just as well as your copy. So quality imagery, making sure they are descriptive, making sure your videos are well populating your website and your social media. All of that will make sure your digital presence is not only aligned with your brand, but is also visible across a number of platforms and not just, in a way, your more traditional search engines. So just really summarizing this in terms of that search piece, AI SEO is, look at this like taking from search engine optimization to search everywhere. We move from having one channel, a few tools, and then people buying question, website, request, deal, to looking across a very complex non-linear discovery stack that goes across a number of channels. So think about, how can you leverage your content you already have across different formats, different optimization strategies, and different tools. So all of that really will depend on your search engine, your AI engine, your review ecosystem, and then eventually how you distribute your content. So I know all of this sounds a lot, and it doesn't all need to happen at the same time. But there's also why we've designed, a very specific service. And again, this is not meant to be a sales page by any means, but just wanted to put it out there. If you are tackling this and you'd like more information, we've designed a AI search gap review as well, that you can go and start to see how your brand is positioned and what your starting point is. We've seen at the beginning of June or end of May, Google released what they're calling the biggest change in search in 25 years. The Google algorithm is changing. Google is changing the way it's presenting information. This has been, dubbed as the new era for search, or for AI search. So I really wanted to emphasize this today, because we do believe that this is something that is worth tackling, is worth paying attention to really be at the forefront of, your competitiveness, but also the forefront of your industry, and making sure that all the good work that you've put in over the years with your brand, building your website, building your online presence, domestically and internationally, continues to serve you well across all of these new services as well. So all of the new platforms as well. And all of this raises one question, and I can hear it already in the room here. How do I prove this? How do I prove the return on investment of, AI search if I can't look at traffic, if I can't look at, how people, or like how my website is ranking on Google? How do I know? And again, this is where we've developed our own bespoke solution here, where we have created, part of that program is a report that gives you insights, on 3, now soon to be 4 major LLMs. So we run this program across ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, and we're working to bring Claude into the mix by the beginning of next quarter. And again, what the program does, gives you real raw data from this search engine on how this sees, your brand, how you're currently ranking on those of some of those very specific questions. Who else is out there stealing the thunder a little bit? And then we work with you to really show, okay, if this is the situation, this is the recommendation, the roadmap, and how we can support you, making sure your website is stronger, and we then continue to improve the positioning as well together. So I appreciate this is not the whole topic of the webinar today. We've got a lot more to cover, but if anyone is interested, if you've got any question, please do get in touch. I really feel this is a pivotal time now for all exporters who are looking to really get ahead of the curve. So if there is anything that we can help with, please do let me know.
Thanks, Joel. I'm going to give you a little break here. Talking about localization, there are dedicated softwares now. And IBT Online, we started our business, 20 years ago, about localization, being focused on localization. And now there's software we can use to help fine tune that localization, really figure out what that means in terms of localization. And sort of, with market relevance, geographic authority, and buyer alignment. And again, this leads into that discussion we had earlier about personalization. Because when someone goes on the web now, they are expecting to see something much finer, much more bespoke than they had previously. There's just too much competition otherwise. So now there are real-time translation tools with multilingual SEO baked in. I mean, DeepL, Smarketing, Phrase, AI for UX. All of these things now have baked in translation SEO, which is really tremendous tools to really firepower up your websites and your local presence, and an amazingly strong tool for exporters. So this is the sort of the third aspect we talked about for AI. The first, as you remember, market intelligence, then visibility in the AI and AISO, and now localization. And obviously localization starts obviously always with your website. That whole sort of website thing about localization, being relevant to your local buyer. But what would that mean for a Michigan exporter, for you today? A Michigan exporter might say, okay, well, my US website, it does the trick. All I have to do is probably translate it. And we know now that simply does not work. A translation alone is the icing on the cake. It's the cherry on top. It's nothing more than that. It gets you no visibility. It's not ranked neither by the LLMs nor by traditional Google searches. And if anyone comes onto it by mistake, it's a high bounce rate. And in fact, it's a negative bounce rate. It's like, oh no, I don't want this one. So it's not just I made a mistake, but I don't want that. It's rejection. No leads, no business development. Localization, the opposite. So there you go. So really getting that dedication. And one thing I wanted to emphasize here is your competitors have this, right? If you're looking at a, let's say again, what would that look like for a Michigan exporter? If you were a precision component manufacturer or something like that, if you wanted to go to Canada, what would that look like? Well, you probably have to do English and French. You'd be in metric. In Mexico, okay, it's mobile first, definitely. Trust signals, USDA, Trade Gov links, WhatsApp for business, definitely. What about Europe? Well, GDPR, obviously, compliance. You'd be looking at EU automotive OEMs and tier 1 supplier testimonials for your precision component product. Asia, Korea, you'd be looking at Naver and so on. So very, very different things for you in each one of these big market components that you want. So again, translation alone is simply not enough in today's world. So there are strong AI tools that can be used these days for that kind of localization, but it still has to be implemented. Joelle, time marching on. Tell us a little bit about scalable content.
Absolutely. And again, this is something we've touched upon a couple of times already in this masterclass. But to me, this is just, again, an idea. Keep in mind, you go to Google to search for information. You go to the LLM to search for solution. For example, if I need to know what time does this restaurant close, I'm probably going to ask Google because I know there's a very simple answer. But if I'm looking for a solution and I have a problem, I'm very likely to go and have a very different, much more human-like conversation with an LLM. This all to say, your content needs to match the kind of intent that you want to be seen. So use, again, use all of those tools that we have to create the content, to repurpose the content. We don't often need to start from scratch, whether you are optimizing a blog, localizing a blog. AI-powered content creation can get you 3 to 5 times faster results, and often very cost effective. So you can turn one piece of content into so many different ways. to then leverage the same, a blog into a newsletter snippet, into social media, into a little video, into a graphic, all of that using some pretty cool AI tools. So I just wanted to put it out there to say generative AI tools are there to help you scale good content faster. And that brings me to the biggest piece about content is personalization. This is something that is no longer a nice to have. Every buyer expects it. I'm sure you do in your own when you are the buyer. So when we're thinking about reaching out to our potential customers, everything has become personalized. Whether it's a multilingual chatbot that is on a website to support dynamic email copy that not just has your name, but has relevant information for you based on what you are looking for, based on what information that you are interested in, that you can adapt to the recipient. Having AI-driven upsell opportunities or cross-sell opportunity on an e-commerce website, for example. Those are all ways that AI is enhancing the way that you can cater to your buyer's need. Really, it doesn't need to be Amazon. You could do that on your e-commerce website, and it's really, really effective. Smart product recommendations, for example. All of these is no longer an experiment. This is standard in, a tech stack, and, especially in e-commerce, is a very, very clever use of AI that is going to really increase your ROI and enable you to scale that personalized engagement much faster. Another piece that I think is really cool that AI is really brought to us in a much easier way now is AI avatars and videos. So here I was just put an example of what we've developed at IBT Online as part of our offering around avatars and videos. This is our friend Abigail. I don't know if we'll be able to hear the beginning of, just wanted to show you what Abigail can do. And again, this is human instructed, but fully AI generated avatar. So maybe we give her 20 seconds to introduce herself. Oh, I don't think we can hear her, but you can find all of those on our website. We have plenty more examples, but what I really wanted to show here is an easy way to turn your knowledge, your expertise, your website, your static collaterals into avatars that deliver personalized messages in multiple languages. It could do your product demo for you. It could do training videos for your distributors. It could do customer support questions. FAQ can be turned into something much more fun and a lot more engaging. And all of these videos really are always on brand, can be tailored to what you want to do, and they're interactive. And this means that they get consumed much better. People tend to engage a lot more. So whether that's internal to your team or something that you want to share as part of your sales cycle, again, I wanted to put it out there as something that we've been developing and seeing some fantastic results for our companies, as well as having great fun creating them with them. To conclude on the content part, again, in terms of generative content, I wanted to provide some examples here, going back to those industries, Susanna, that we were sharing earlier, specific to Michigan exporters, food and beverage, automotive, life sciences. Here, I've just put some examples of what some of them we have created, some of them just, I can see could be beneficial. Think about a food and beverage exporter who has an AI avatar that walks through how their product is used in Spanish, in French, and in Mandarin. And all of these can look like localized salesperson or support person would be in the market, but they can be produced at scale, can be produced fast. You don't need a big production budget, but then also that can then go through nutrition and regulatory copy per region. All of that supported by AI research, validated by your team by all means. But all of that can then be turned into social content at 5 times the volume that you'd be able to generate nowadays doing this manually and having to come up with it yourself. Likewise, on the automotive side, for example, think technical blog at scales, compliance copy that can be adapted for each and different region. And again, maintenance videos in every different language for your customers. We've done a couple of examples, again, that you can find on our website across our blogs if you're interested. And then some other ideas here, again, looking at user case scenarios, looking at localized white papers. How long would it take you to write a white paper? Is still there, is still very much topical, but AI tools can help you turn that into an infographic, localize it in so many different languages, turn it into a series that you can share on social media, really making sure that you don't just work harder, but you work faster and then achieve much better results as well as a result. So I just wanted to share some ideas here, and look forward to more brainstorming in the Q&A if we have time.
Joel, I wanted to bring up and just reiterate this notion of personalization. So this is the number 5 out of our 6 practical tips, which is the personalization. And again, that personalization comes through the alignment of the content, but it also comes through at the back end of your company, as it were, through the CRM, the client relationship management software that you use. And a good CRM will allow you to have that alignment, the knowledge, the relevancy, and the measurement, the data that allows the right decision making. So unlocking that whole personalization key is a properly used, up-to-date, clean CRM. Those 4 pillars, as I mentioned, allows also an alignment between your sales and marketing teams. So the knowledge of the buyer persona and that ideal corporate profile is passed between your sales force and your marketing force, and shared with that. There's a real role clarity in the sales process that's allowed that. And a return on investment at every possible stage. Most exporters run maybe, a fraction, maybe a third of the capacity of a CRM. Most U.S. companies, most mid-sized companies do not fully exploit a CRM, especially for exporters. It's really essential. So just think of that CRM also, the upsell is large. And I think one of the points about a good CRM is that whole segmentation between the ideal corporate profile, your buyer persona, and the buyer intelligence. And that's now able, any good CRM can really help with that. But this kind of unlocking the messaging and the personalization is now being able to be done via AI tools to get that better conversion. And this is so important for any exporter who's looking at diverse markets, diverse messaging, diverse buyer personas. How do you keep all these different plates spinning? You need a good CRM and the AI tools to make sure they're all being sort of properly managed and channeled, so that you have the right buyer personas getting the right content at all times. So you're getting, what your prospective clients actually care about. So you get those 3 right, and your messaging, your conversion, your sales velocity all move together. If you get that mastery of personalization, your revenue from these activities, can up to double for that. So again, a good CRM increases the personalization. It also helps that automation and the automation nurturing that you can now do with AI tools. So here's like a sort of a possible worked example of automated nurturing. A prospect will download a guide, and that triggers a 5 email sequence over, say, a 2-week period. And every time they open something, or they don't, or they click and they visit, updates a lead score, and they have to get to a certain point when that score crosses a certain threshold that you determine that lead becomes a sales qualified lead in SQL. And then a sales rep, can phone up the company and say, hey, are you interested in this, that, or the other? And that's not a cold call anymore. That person, that buyer persona, has walked that route. And that nurtured lead converts at sort of 4 to 10 times the rate of a cold lead at 0 marginal cost. So that's really the highest possible ROI leverage that you can do. And that's something that we're finding exporters often don't do because it looks very complex. It's no longer so complex if you have the right tools. And Joelle, maybe you could just say one of the tools.
Absolutely. And again, this is an example that I love to bring because is a platform that we're very familiar with, which is HubSpot. We've been HubSpot partners for over a decade, and we know the platform inside out. But this I wanted to bring an example of what, the typical, end of the scale exporter uses the CRM for, and then what the best practice is and what you can do. But this is very much the same across any other CRM. So don't be put out if this not one of but a CRM should be a lot more like Susanna, you're explaining that, storing your contacts in companies, that's great. Sending a newsletter to a list that is pretty cold because we haven't contacted them since last quarter, and also the content is the same for everyone. Your sales team is using it, but they're still using it manually, and they're putting in every contact and every deal by hand. There is no real segmentation. You don't know which contact came from what source. That is not much more than a spreadsheet. Whereas when you're working within a CRM and you're working hard, your CRM hard, it works hard for you. So you can have it scoring your leads, telling you which one of the companies that are the hottest on your content, making sure that everything is routed automatically to the right rep, to the right distributor, depending where they're based, depending on industry, and then making sure that you have the full view, how they came in contact first, what they did in between, and then how they ended up converting, because all of that, those AI tools, those AI supports within the CRM can help you make more and mimic that winning strategy to make sure that you don't just store your contacts, but you nurture them, so then, like you were saying, into winning deals. So again, we've analyzed this, we call it the gap, the HubSpot gap, in terms of what your CRM can do and what you're using it for. So again, it's always an interesting exercise working with a company. So I'll challenge you all to go back to your CRM and look at what the capabilities are and what potentially you're using it for, and then see where your gap lives, and slowly start to address it. Maybe, Susan, I'll dive into number 6, if that's okay, just in terms of my favorite topic again, data. If anyone, for those of you who know me, have heard me present about data, I think there is no return on investment without being able to track your data. So real-time analytics is something that is becoming easier and easier with some of those AI tools that I've mentioned as part of the 14,000 strong stack that you can choose from. But making sure that you can not only just track your data, but also use some of this tool to interpret it, look at trends, look at time over time, year over year, look at predictive analytics. Susanna, you were talking about earlier to me's question, is a very key question here. How do you know what's working? It's all in your data. If you're tracking things and then you're working with those tools to analyze and interpret them, all of these will allow you to tune your marketing campaigns, your marketing outreach, your sales campaigns in hours, and it no longer takes a quarter to make sure that you have all of your data points. So data is important, and make sure that AI can make that data work hard for you. I've tried to, again, divide real-time analytics. The slide I showed before showed a lot of data. That's where we live. But what to track in this new environment has changed slightly. We've mentioned traditional, and that still matters. Your organic session, your conversions, how many of those are branded, non-branded, how your website is progressing, but also how your marketing qualified leads move to sales qualified leads, and how many move to successful deals. Those still matter. However, you should also apply those new must-haves. Where do you stand on the LLM referrals? How much traffic are these LLMs sending to your website? How many times is your brand mentioned there? How many times is your website cited? All of these is going to give you, if you can report on this, you're going to have the upper hand in understanding how you can do better and how you can continue growing your share of voice. And then eventually the third column is really the bottom line, is why your CEO, CFO would really care about the pipeline and revenue. So if your reports that you're currently running from your traditional and your new marketing and sales efforts don't add up to be able to show revenue, then you've got to change them. So it's very key that you have a clear handle beginning to start, and all of these tools that we've discussed today are there just to help you do that. So the same way that your buyers have changed the way they search, we ought to change the way, or the KPIs that we track, to make sure that we can continue to report on success.
Talking about KPIs.
Well, again, this is This is the what I was sharing with you earlier. We have a small, well, I mean, a set program that we've developed exactly to be able to show you where you stand in terms of AI visibility. You can scan the QR code here, or we can put the link in the follow-up email that'll go out with the recording to everyone. And our program does exactly that. It just gives you that immediate visibility on, you know, we audit your AI visibility. We'll look at the content structure for your website. We'll look at, you know, the strategy, the content, the structure, all of that into a very neat 90 days program that I'd love to discuss if, you know, everything that we've spoken to today is kind of really piquing your interest and is, you know, we've managed to convey that this is something I think every exporter needs to pay attention to now to be successful in the long term, not just in the short term. I'd love for you guys to ask any question you have, and then take this forward individually.
Thanks, Joel. I'll take them here. And just to reiterate from what Joel was saying there, this, if you scan the QR code, there's a free of charge. You put your URL of your company in, and we will give you a report free of charge to show you where you are currently on the AI list. Are you being referenced? If so, by whom? How often? When? What pages, etc. So that'll give you a good place to start when you're looking at that AI journey. And then just as Joel said, the points on the right hand side of the slide just say, you know, what are your big priorities for this? I wanted now to sort of bring you something else, which I think is also really worth looking at. Again, hot off the press, you know, sort of just barely over a month ago. Anthropic launched something called Claude for Small Business. If you remember, Claude launched Claude for lawyers, Claude for accountants, Claude for this, that, yeah. They've now launched Claude for small business. And I think exporter or non-exporter, it is worth looking at for you. It is interesting because it has a whole group of embedded connectors that you can have in terms of your projects. For example, it has already embedded in it HubSpot, also Canva. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of, I think there's 15 that come automatically into it, and then you can add or subtract, but there's a lot of them for that. So it's worth looking at. It's particularly tailored to small companies, and then you sort of connect those main apps. And the main apps that I said is I mean, there's like about 100 different apps that you can do, but some of them are the ones that come ready to run workflows: QuickBooks, PayPal, HubSpot, Canva, and so on. So it's really very strong. It does require some knowledge and good knowledge of Claude, of AI tools, how to run them, how to be certified in them, what teams, your guardrails, your policies, and everything. It is not plug and play, although they say it's sort of, you know, it's super easy. It is not. You will need help on it. But and we're obviously here to help in any way we can. And I would say, you know, how do you get started? You know, there's oh, I think I've missed one. Yeah, there's the benefits. No, the challenges. The challenges: training. Buy-in is a real big challenge. How do you make sure that everyone in your team is saying yes to this? And how do you put guardrails in place? You know, if there's different, you know, you've got a set route already. You're going to change that. Change is expensive. It takes time. It's difficult for teams to do. And one of the problems is, you know, how to keep up with it. It's very fast moving. We know as well that, you know, it is a reliance on Claude, but we think it's quite interesting for that. So just wanted to bring that to you. So, you know, how to get started in it. The first 3 steps that we would say, recommend: look, you know, obviously you know, download Claude, and then figure out what are the 2 or 3 repetitive tasks that takes your time and is weighing down your teamwork and your workflows. It could be in invoicing, could be in reporting, those sort of things. And then sign up for Claude Cowork. You will probably need to take quite a few certifications for that. And I mean, I can't remember how many hours, we worked it out once in terms of us as a company. We're just in digital marketing. That's all. So we're, that's our wheelhouse. That's all we're doing. And just for us, it's taken hours and hours and hours. And this is what we do. It's not nothing, but once you get there, the productivity gains and the ability to use AI tools in a very sort of inventive way for your whole team, and for exporters, it just makes the entire export journey more fluid, more profitable. So there you go. We would recommend you have a good look at it. So, action plans, resources, Q&A. Joelle, do you want to maybe have the basics on that?
Absolutely. Very quickly, if you were to take away 3 things of today in terms of what the future of sale has in store: digital first. Again, everyone goes online first. I think we've seen, I forget the number, but 60% of users don't really want to talk to anyone until they've had an opportunity to do their own research. So everything needs to be hyper automated, digital first, and again, make sure that everything is optimized. Going back to that idea of doing SEO everywhere, omni-channel, your customers want an always on personalized experience that spans across much more than just the website. They will go out and look for information across the web. And everything is customer centric. We talked about personalization. We talked about recommendation. Companies must invest in technologies that improve the buyer experience, providing information that is topical, relevant based on where they are at in their cycle and what kind of information they're looking for. So those are the 3 main things that we can really see is changing, and that will shape the future of how we do business. And this kind of comes with, in a way, sharpening your AI toolbox. And the first thing to do very much is start from your website. I mean, your website is your, shop from Windows, they're 24/7. How is your website performing? Is it relevant to your buyer persona locally? So in their local markets that you're trying to reach, is it responsive for mobile? Has a good load speed, both for mobile and desktop? Is it optimized for the traditional search engines, but is also optimized for the LLMs? Is your imagery, rendering correctly? Also, does it only look beautiful, or is it actually easy to navigate? How are people being able to go from A to B to C and to find the information they're looking for? And last but absolutely not least, how is your brand, described and narrated consistently throughout? Perhaps you have your product pages, your blog pages, your career pages. Everything should be consistent to your brand. And then at the end of it, you can look at, are your digital assets ready for AI? And here we've shared, some links again, and then happy to share the slide deck for those of you who want it. Please do get in touch. Where some links here again from Claude, from a small business, but also there are so many great thought leadership and programs out there. Look at HubSpot, OpenAI, DeepMind. There are some really good resources, that we have on our website that we've developed, but also that the MEDC have developed, the trade.gov. So please do look around. And if you cannot find what you're looking for, Sudan and I are here. So please do let us know. And obviously, Alyssa and the team are there to answer any questions if there is anything specific that you have.
We've cut it fine, Alyssa. We've managed to squeeze it all into an hour. Just we have 2 of you asking again. Yes, you will have a slide deck, and you will have the recording in your inbox. And yes, you can reach out at any time to Joelle or myself for specific questions on that. Maybe just a very quick question I'm going to throw to you, Joelle. How long does it generally take to change from SEO to AI SEO, AISO?
Change
Example.
is a difficult word because I wouldn't recommend changing or like dropping SEO, but very much integrating those best practices. You can start, with having some, small steps and then building on that. So you'll be able to see the immediate curve on the LLM, you'll be able to see within the first 3 months, but then the real good results will come in month 6, 9, 12. Unfortunately, it does take time. But if you have a strong SEO workflow, then don't drop that. Continue what you're doing, but make sure that you do integrate those pieces about AI visibility. And again, get the right data to show you how well you're performing. So then you have the full picture.
Thank you. Just a reminder that free of charge for you is also this CRM audit, which we can do for you. And as well as that, a technical SEO, GEO, AISO, whatever it's called, a report on your US website or your international website to show where you are in terms of your current standing vis-a-vis the LLMs. So a CRM audit and the LLM audit for you if you want, and you can access those on our resources pages or else on that QR code earlier that we showed you on that. We've cut it close to time. So if you have questions, please perhaps just, in the questions that are there, we'll answer directly. But otherwise, if there are other questions, please email us. Just want to thank Alyssa and the team at the MEDC, as always, for all that you do to help the export and the internationalization for your companies. So.
Well, thank you both for joining us today and for your expertise. Looking forward to seeing what we can do with that.
Thank you very much, Alyssa. And thank you all for attending today. And thank you, Joelle, for joining me very much. We hope to see you on future webinars, future panelists in person when we're in Michigan, and reach out if there's anything we need to help. Thank you. And bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.